Hey YouTube, we are here with another draft video. Today I am drafting Patrick's brand new cube called Tupelo Honey. It's called Tupelo Honey because everything is 2 below. All of the spells are mana value 2 or less, or effectively mana value 2 or less. There's a Fire Ice down here that Patrick was disappointed to find out is technically 4 mana value, but you know, it plays like a 2 mana value spell. So I say this cube is brand new. It's been drafted twice. I was in one of those drafts, not the first one. So I've only played it once before, and the cube is, I think, really great. I think it's a really good example of how just playing a bunch of cheap spells kind of leads to a very naturally interactive gameplay, right? Like, because all the spells are 1 and 2 mana value, there's not huge blowouts, right? There's not like a giant card you just can't beat, like in some other cubes where you play a 5-drop or a 6-drop and you just can't win. There's a lot of back and forth. The removal hits pretty much everything, so all the removal's always live. No one gets really mana screwed because all of your spells cost 1 and 2 mana, so you're going to have ability to cast your spells with only a couple lands. So it's a really interesting environment that I think is really successful right out of the gate. I do think there are a lot of substantial power outliers in this cube that some of which Patrick is like totally aware of and just happy to have. He's like, look, I just want to play with this a couple times, then maybe I'll cut it. Some of them are not as powerful in this new context. So like there's Wrenn and 6 Strip Mine here. I think Wrenn and 6 is one of the best things you can possibly be doing in this cube. I would be thrilled to open Wrenn and 6. I had it last night in my pool, and it was great. Strip Mine is a good example of a card that I think is still really good, but is not as good in this environment because everyone's spells cost 2 mana value or less. So the chances that you totally mana screw your opponent with a Strip Mine are pretty unlikely. Hey, Briro, welcome to the stream. So really, your Strip Mine is more like a value play, or you get to loop it with a Wrenn and 6 or something. Cards that I think provide a lot of extra value in this context are things that provide a lot of card advantage. So I am really impressed with cards like Sylvan Library. I was really impressed with Ancestral Vision in the draft last night. You know, just a 2 mana or a 1 mana 3-for-1 is good, even if it's a little bit slow. Other things that are good are things that just deal with the size of creatures that this cube has reliably. So I think maybe the biggest power outlier here is Umezawa's Jite, because you can kill anything with it, pretty much. And all of the creatures are cheap. You're going to have cheap creatures in your deck, so that's going to be good. I think maybe the most powerful thing you can do here is Stoneforge Jite. That's my early suspicion. Smuggler's Copter, I think, is fantastic and a power outlier. What else? Yeah, anything that makes tokens, I think, is good. It sounds like it'd be a very fast environment, and the games, I think, are very speedy, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're short in number of turns. Right? You get to a good pace of the game immediately, but it oftentimes takes a little while to grind out the actual wins because you're waiting for people to kill you with small creatures. So it's not broken in that sense. Yeah, so I'm going to be looking to hopefully open some powerful cards. I think the counter magic is pretty unappealing here. The only one I would play, well, so another broken card, I think. Metamostep is kind of broken here. This card is good, I think, in more environments than other people play it in anyway, but here it counters more than half of the spells in the cube and can do so in any deck for free, so that I'm really high on. The other counter magic, not so much. Maybe I would play a Spell Snare if I was in heavy blue already, but I'm not actually trying to be blue, to be honest, by default. Maybe we'll get there. I'm looking for stuff that is going to be big creatures or 2-for-1s or more is what I'm going to value very highly. Hey, Zenith, I think we have an 8th. Yes, pretty sure. We're at 6 right now. Let's see who we're waiting on. We're waiting on Dirt and Anthony. So, yeah, we got our 8th. We're just waiting on Anthony and Patrick themselves, who hopefully will be here on time. Yeah, so it's a really interesting cube. I think it actually doesn't feel so different from, say, for example, my cube. It is very powerful. There's a lot of powerful cards here. And it's kind of like you draft a cube from a cube. It's kind of like you draft a deck from the Bun Magic cube, but you don't have your, 3 or 4, 3-4 mana spells. It does mean that some things are just non-existent, right? There aren't any board wipes. There's balance, actually. I lied. There is balance, right? Yeah, there's balance here. So you got to be worried about balance. But there isn't even, let's see, is there a... Yeah, there's not like a Pyroclasm, so really, unless your opponent is on balance, you can be pretty safe overcommitting to the board because at 2 mana value or less, you're not getting any board wipes, which is the thing. I'm seeing here that Patrick's going to be a little bit late, and Allison's tracking down the last couple people here that need to get in here, which is good. Yeah, so don't worry about board wipes. You don't have to worry about planeswalkers outside of Ren and 6, and there's a Tybalt here too, which I don't think is very good. So really, Ren and 6 is the only planeswalker you have to sweat in the entire environment. Hanovernator, it has 2 strip mines, you say. Let's see. I did not notice that. It does, in fact, have 2 strip mines. That is gross. Very, very gross. Everything is 2 mana value or less, though, so maybe they're not totally broken. I played with one last night, and it didn't feel broken. Like, I've definitely had experiences in other cubes where you play strip mine and it just feels like, oh, your opponent mulliganed and they didn't realize that they had 1 less land than they thought. Here, everything is so cheap that you're not totally ruined. I had Ren and 6 and strip mine last night, and it was fine. I didn't actually get to loop them ever, so I guess I can't really say how good it was, but it didn't feel oppressive right out the gate. So some notes. It didn't feel anywhere near as good as, for example, somebody having Umezawa's G-Tag. That felt kind of unbeatable unless you had some artifact removal. The other thing that shows up here is all right, little story time. I'll wait for our 8th to show up. I played last night against somebody that had Isochron Scepter, and I was a creature deck, like a Jund creature deck. I had Ren and 6, so they, in the early game, tucked their Path to Exile under Isochron Scepter when I only had 1 creature. Then they pathed my 1 creature. And I was like, all right, well, my only win condition now is Ren and 6. I have no artifact removal. I'm never going to kill them with creatures. They were at like 15 life or something. I was like, I just have to kill them with Ren and 6. And eventually Ren and 6 got Prismatic Ending, and I'm like, can I still win this game? And I did play the rest of the game, and I did actually get there. I sandbagged a bunch of cards and eventually played combinations of flash creatures and haste creatures and creature lands and just snuck in with enough damage that I could finish them off with bird spells. And it felt great. They were kind of in awe. They were like, I thought for sure you would have just given up, and then you didn't. All right, looks like we have all 8. People are chatting over here. I'm going to start the draft. Off we pop. All right, so this pack has a couple things that are jumping out at me right out the gate. I think Expressive Iteration and Ancestral Vision are notable for being guaranteed card advantage here, which is, again, kind of hard to come by at 2 mana value or less. Warden of the First Tree can become a giant creature, which is very, very relevant because there aren't that many of those floating around. And then Fatal Push always destroys everything in the cube. There are no creatures that have mana value greater than 2. So regardless of Revolt, that's just a 1 mana instant speed murder, I guess. Oh boy. I think here it's between Expressive Iteration and Warden of the First Tree for me. Fatal Push is better than it is normally, but it is still kind of replaceable. Ancestral Vision is fine, but it's a much worse top deck than something like Expressive Iteration, so it's going to be one of these two. I think I'm going to go EI. Because Warden does still die to all the removal, right? It can still get Fatal Pushed or Portable Hold no matter how big it is, so I think I'm going to take EI. Though a lot of the removal is toughness-based, and so if you can get things big enough, it can avoid things. All right, so here, I still am operating under the assumption that Mental Misstep is kind of broken here. I could be wrong, but I think it's kind of broken. I think it's broken enough to take over a Polluted Delta, a Burst Lightning. Nothing else here is really that appealing to me, honestly. This pack's a lot worse than the one we opened, so I think it's Polluted Delta, Misstep, or Dragon's Rage Channeler, and I'm just going to take the Misstep. I think it's broken. It counters more than half the cube. I'm taking it. All right. What we got here? Let's see. What are we looking at down here? This is split. All right, cool. Here. So, okay, so there is Dam in this cube. That is a 4-mana spell. I missed that one when I was going over the board wipes. There's also Hex Drinker, which I think is a power outlier for sure. The question is, do I want to sneak into a 3rd color? I might not be playing all the cards I've drafted so far. I think Hex Drinker is better enough than the best blue or red card in this pack, which is not very exciting to be just on Hex Drinker. I'm going to take that. We'll see where we end up. I think playing many colors might be good in this environment, advantageous, might be something you want to be doing. All right, here, nothing is really jumping out at me here, to be honest. I don't love any of these cards. A card like Dreadbore is a lot worse here, for example, I think. We just looked at Fatal Push, which is instant speed, 1 mana, and kills everything except for the 2 Planeswalkers in the environment, one of which you probably don't care about anyway. So, pretty low on Dreadboard here. I think Den Protector is good. It's a mana sink. It's a way to actually get more places to spend your mana when otherwise your spells are very cheap. I think Otawara is pretty good, just as a land with upside. I'm going to take Otawara, I guess, but I don't love that pack. All right, here, geez, I don't love this pack either. I feel like our draft's kind of come off the rails a little bit already. So I think Counterspell is worse here, Negate is worse here than normal. Drop of Honey is kind of in here as a joke because the cube is called Tupelo Honey because everything's 2 or below, and Patrick didn't know Drop of Honey existed and thinks it's funny, and he's right. It is funny. See Oinkinator. So we're looking at like Gallagreeters, Cemetery Gatekeeper. I mean, Drown in the Loch is probably one of the best cards, but am I playing it? I'm taking a black card here. Boy, what does this actually do? Choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. Put +1/+1 counter on it. Create a tap treasure token. Gain 2 life. Ugh. Yeah, I guess it's a Gallagreeters. I should say, I guess Celestial Colonnade is a standout here, as the creature lands are good because they are big creatures. But am I taking a white card over playable? I'm going to take it. I'm going to stay open a little bit here. I'm going to try and draft the hard way. I'm not going to commit to the things I've already drafted per se. Here we have Galvanic Blast and Shock, I think, is the best things. What does Dennick say again? It shuts off graveyard stuff, which is not going to matter. It's basically a 2/3 lifelink that then draws you a 3/2 flyer that investigates when things die. I mean, it's a good card. It's a really good rate. I think I'm just taking a Shock here, though. Or I guess Galvanic Blast is strictly better, right? Yeah. I guess I'll just take a Shock. Maybe didn't come back around. All right, got to take Fixing at this point now. Sylvan Library. Oh, God. See, this keeps happening to me. This pack has... The past couple of packs have had nothing really good for us. Yeah, I Drop of Honey, I think, has a really high ceiling, Zenith. I don't really know how to play with it, to be honest, and I don't think other people playing this cube do either. I mean, I've seen it in play, and it's been kind of like, okay, well, that takes game actions, but is it advancing my deck strategy? I don't know. I can't believe we see 2 fetches and Sylvan Library in the same pack. Oy. So we could just be like green-red, in which case I would take a Sylvan Library. If we're trying to cast Expressive Iteration and Odawara, then I want one of these fetches. And I think I just got to take the fetch. I already have Expressive Iteration. I need to make sure I can cast my spells more than play more of them. All right, so Punishing Fire is in here. It might imply to you that Grove of the Burnwells is in here, but Grove is not in here. So I take this much lower than I would normally, or than I would if I had the combo with Grove, because Punishing Grove would be a crazy combo here with, again, all these tiny little creatures. Direfleet, Daredevil, all the packs are stacked up at me. I think I'm going to be ambitious about my mana fixing. Hierarch lets me maybe activate Colonnade in the late game, lets me cast my EI, and play my Hexdrinker. I'm going to take that. All right, back to this pack. I still think Warden is a power outlier here. The other cards I would play at this point, I would play the Dragon's Guard Elite, the Mental Note, and I guess the Lotus Cobra. Dragon's Guard Elite could be cool if we end up in a mostly blue-red deck splashing green for things like Dragon's Guard Elite and Hexdrinker. Hexdrinker is very splashable because you're happy to play it on 4. It's only still 1 green hip to get it to its 4-drop mode. Warden is the power outlier, though. Are we going to play green-white after taking these things for the first half of pack 1? That might be staying a little too open. Boy. Okay. I'm going to take the Dragon's Guard Elite. I'm not sure if that's right. I'm feeling the pressure of not holding up the draft. Here, I think it's probably just well, Earthshaker Kenra's pretty good. Let's take Earthshaker Kenra. Maybe we'd be more like green-red, splashing for a couple blue spells. I like Abundant Harvest a lot. Hall of Storm Giants is okay, but 6 mana is a lot. So I'm going to take Abundant Harvest here. And we're back to these packs that never really had anything for us to begin with, to be honest, and they still don't. I guess Lair of the Hydra is fine. I think the creature lands are good here. People agree with me that these cards are not very good, so I guess we'll take a sideboard negate at best. I don't feel great about this draft so far, to be honest. I think we have a couple of really good cards in Misstep, Iteration, Hexdrinker, and then otherwise we don't really have a cohesive strategy. It's not to say that we're in a horrible spot. We just got to be conscious of that moving into the next couple packs and try and end up with something more functional and focused. I might play that late Standstill, because again, the card advantage is really relevant, and here everyone's so low to the ground that if like you play a 1-drop, okay, we got Ragavan. That's really good. Like if you play a 1-drop, they play a 1-drop, you untap and remove it, and then manage to stick a Standstill. Like even with a tiny board presence, I think Standstill was really, really good here. It's really painful to pass the Steam Vents, but Ragavan is the kind of thing that I will pass any fixing for. Arid Mesa as well. Lightning Bolt is fantastic, but Ragavan, big power outlier here. Going to take that, no question. Here, we are looking at a Polluted Delta or a Bloodthirsty Adversary. It's not close. We're taking Fixing at this point. I do have another pack. I'm trying not to also like leave empty packs here, so we're just waiting. All right, now we have, I think, some real choices to make. Thing in the Ice, Raging Ravine, Prismatic Vista, Monastery Swift Spear, Avacyn's Judgment, Quirion Beastcaller. All very reasonable plays, I think. So, Thing in the Ice, I think, is great. I don't think we're the Thing in the Ice deck. Right now we have Misstep, Galvanic Blast, Abundant Harvest, Expressive Iteration. We have more like a creature deck with splashing some blue. So I don't think we're the deck for that. Rage Ravine, I think, is one of the better creature lands, which is really good. It's fixing as well. And then Quirion Beastcaller is kind of similar to Dragon's Guard Elite, but actually more on strategy with our deck and just kind of grows quickly. I think we're going to take the fixing because I do want to splash these blue cards that I have already. So I want to prioritize fixing so I can actually do that. There's another fetch land. There's a breeding pool, though. I think I have to take the breeding pool here over the fetch just to make sure that I have things to fetch with my, hopefully what will be more fetchables that will come down the lane. I'm sad to miss out on a Preordain, a Fire Prophecy, an Important, and a Once Upon a Time. I mean, this is a really good pack too, but I really got to get the first breeding pool, I think. And then here we have, what do we have? Incubation Druid, Cheville, Young Pyromancer, Lumbering Falls. Lumbering Falls is, I think, one of the creature lands I'm much lower on, and if we're going to play Raging Ravine, I don't want too many tapped lands. We're not really a Young Pyromancer or Sprite Dragon deck with this number of spells, but maybe you only have to trigger, you know, them once, and you're pretty happy. How good is the Incubation Druid? I mean, it does become a 3/5. That's pretty relevant. Maybe we just take the Incubation Druid. Go a little big here, a little big green. I'd like some more removal. Based on how the games played out last night, I don't want to be stuck unable to remove my opponent's threats at opportune moments, because people are going to have stuff like Wardens of the First Tree and similar, which you're going to have a narrow window to remove, and if you don't, it's going to be a big problem. All right, I got to take this Stomping Ground for the same reason we took that Breeding Pool earlier. I would very happily play a Flooded Strand, obviously. Nothing else here is particularly exciting. Again, I'm not, maybe Thousand Face Shadow, not that high on Remand here. Actually, pretty low on Remand here, to be honest, given how low the curve is. I had a Remand played against me last night, and it felt great. I was like, great, sure, put my 1-mana spell back in my hand. I'll cast it again, and you basically did a 2-mana cantrip. Okay, here we have a lot of great cards to pick from for our deck. I am thrilled about Scavenging Ooze, Territorial Kavu, Kargan Intimidator. Love all those cards. I said I wanted more removal. We don't really have a removal option here. There are a lot of graveyard strategies going on, which makes Scavenging Ooze a high pick. Our Kavu is realistically only going to be a 3/3 in this deck. Also, I mean, it's not going to come back. We're only getting, what, one card back from this pack? So it's going to be Blazing Crescendo, almost certainly. Maybe Hardened Scales. I think we have decent ways to make extra mana. I think it's going to be the Scavenging Ooze. I mean, Kavu is good. No, we're going to take the Kavu. Kavu's got to be better. Oh, it's really close. I'm taking Kavu. All right. We got Ignoble Hierarch, as well as Gilded Goose and Treetop Village. I also could maybe play a fourth color if I get, a fetchable white source. That makes my Kavu better. It lets me maybe splash this Celestial Colonnade. So I'm not opposed to that, but I'm not going to prioritize the payoff right now. If I get the fixing, then maybe I'll take a future green-white card. But for now, it's just this Ignoble Hierarch, I think. And then, we got a Steam Vents. That's great. That's the one we're missing, right? Yeah, we have Breeding Pool, Stomping Ground. Give me that Steam Vents. This was our pack, right? This is the pack we opened, and then Steam Vents came around. That's great for us. This pack didn't have anything the first time, and it still doesn't really. Dragon Master Outcast is a fine late-game card. Blazing Salvo is removal, but it's awful. Having your opponent giving your opponent the choice is so terrible here. I guess it's just Outcast. Probably don't want to play that card. Judgment I do want to play. I also want to play... Ooh, Beastcaller came back. Oh, boy. So the question is, how much do we need removal right now? I think pretty badly. Things like Ragavan really want to be backed up by removal. I don't want my opponent's things to get out of control, but are we going to have enough looks at it in the last pack that I'm okay taking this Beast Caller, which I think is kind of a power outlier? I'm going to do it. Judgment is good, but it's not great. Oh, Once Upon a Time. I love seeing that. That's beautiful. Are we playing the Sprite Dragon? Maybe we will. If we get the removal we want in pack 3, we'll probably play this Sprite Dragon. So let's take it over Lumbering Falls. I don't want another tap land. I have each of my shocks at this point, so my fixing should be pretty good if I just get a couple more fetch lands. I don't want to take more tapped fixing if I can avoid it. All right, how are we doing over here? Oh, boy, 25 minus the 9 lands we're on, so we're at, like, 16 playables right now. And I'm not thrilled about some of these playables. Mostly like Incubation Druid is forgettable. Dragon's Guard Elite and Sprite Dragon aren't looking amazing here. The one thing I think is kind of a bit of a trap right now in this cube is like aggro. Like I don't think 1-mana 2/1s are any good here. Everyone's got 2-drop creatures and 1-drop creatures that can brawl with them. So I'm not in for that kind of thing, I don't think. I can't believe Theo's passing to us, and we got that Steam Vents back. Theo, what are you doing? You're not doing Theos? Yeah, see, I got the Remand back. I'm probably not going to play that, to be honest. Maybe I'll side it in. This is another motivation to play a Plains. All right, so now I actually am kind of looking for a Sacred Foundry, a Temple Garden, probably Sacred Foundry or Temple Garden. I don't really want the Hallowed Fountain, given that that's both my splash colors. Okay. Pack 3, we're doing okay here. So there's a Strip Mine, which we talked about in the draft prior, and I would have slammed this for sure before I played the cube last night. Having played the cube last night, I don't actually think this is as high of a pick as people think it might be, and I'm more concerned about actually casting my spells, which is going to lead me to take this Windswept Teeth so I can actually fix my mana. Passing up on Strip Mine, Abrade, Third Path Iconoclast, Birds of Paradise, Retrofitter Foundry. Those are all good cards, but I think I just want to be able to cast what I've got. Yeah. So I'm really taking removal and fixing over almost anything here. There's my Temple Garden. And we're only giving up a Serum Visions or a Lava Dart to take it. Might be worth doing it at this point. So what does it do for us already? We're not playing Soulfire Grandmaster. So what it does is makes our Wild Nacatl and our Territorial Kavu better. Our Territorial Kavu gets substantially better, I think. Also, our Celestial Colonnade we can actually animate. So I think we're taking that. Yeah, let's do it. Let's try and be a little ambitious here. I don't usually draft, 4-color decks, especially in a cube like this, but let's open ourselves up to getting paid off with a cool white-gold card. For example, like that one, except we're not playing black. It's the only other color we're not playing. Here, I think we got to take a tar. How many fetch? So let's see here. I'm going to put my fetch lands up here so I can actually get a sense of how many we're dealing with. Windswept Heath, Scalding Tarn. So then we have everything to fetch. Plus, we have 3 fetch lands right now. If the Steam Vents was we do have a Windswept Heath. That's what I was thinking about. So it's Windswept Heath or Tarfire. I only have Galvanic Blast as removal right now. I need removal. I really do. So I think I'm going to take the Galvanic Blast over the Windswept Heath. I'm also a little bit light on playables. Like, I'm not guaranteed to hit exact. I took a lot of lands, so I'm not guaranteed to hit the number of playables I want for sure. So yeah, I think it's the Blast. That's a really close one. It's close there between the Windswept Heath and the Galvanic Blast, and the Soulscar Mage is fine, but really it's between those two. I'm looking now for, I think, one more cool payoff for playing that Temple Garden would be sweet. This is a 0-mana spell. It's basically a fetch land. Am I playing a Sprite Dragon on this few non-creature spells? I really don't want to. Let's put the cards I really would rather not play. I think I am playing the Dragon's Guard Elite. Playing all my Hierarchs. Hierarchs are good. I think the Hierarchs specifically having Exalted makes them really good here. Okay, well, see, now we get more removal. Baffling End is just hard removal. It gives them no, it's awful. It gives them a token when it goes away. So we're just taking Firebolt here, which is okay. Firebolt, I mean, Magmatic Channeler would be better if our deck was a little bit different, but Firebolt makes all of our other stuff a little better. It makes our spells matter stuff a little better, like our Dragon's Guards, Leets, and whatnot. It's removal to backup. Oh, we're not playing Dragon Master Outcast, so we can avoid it. It's removal to backup Ragavan, so we're going to take that. That's fine. More fixing here. So Rip Apart, another kind of... So that's just basically Vindicate here. It's going to kill any creature, pretty much. And there are some really important artifacts and enchantments, but am I going to take it over Bloodstained Mire? Let's see how many playables we actually have. So we're 29 minus 12. So we're at 17 17 non-lands, 18 if you include Once Upon a Time, non-land cards. We're going to be real close to playables here. I might have to, play a Standstill, Dragon Master, Outcast, Sprite Dragon. I think this will be the last fetch I'm going to prioritize highly, and I honestly might wheel this Rip Apart. If no one else is playing red-white, it might just come back around. I'm taking the fetch. All right, here. Okay, Sacred Fire. Now that I really like, but are we gonna pass up a Bloodblade Marauder or a Fire Ice? Ooh. Okay, it's gonna be Fire Ice. I mean, Fire Ice is easier for us to cast. This is great too because it's removal for the kinds of things you're gonna have to remove a lot. Like Fire is gonna kill a lot in this cube, but then Ice sometimes when things get out of control is gonna be great. Bloodblade Marauder is really good, I think, but I'm gonna take this instead. All right, now. Okay, Bronzehide Lion. Now we're talking about real payoffs for our green. And that's got to be better than Manamorphose or Condescend, I think. So that's a payoff for us playing our... I said playing green? Playing white is what I mean. For playing our one copy of Temple Garden. Which, Temple Garden can be gotten by one... Oh, actually just one of our fetches right now? Here I was thinking we were doing well on our fixing for white, but... It just so happens our other fetches are blue and red. So we have just one Temple Garden that could be fetched by one Windswept Heath. We also have Noble Hierarch and maybe Treasures from Ragavan. So is it better than Song of Freyalise or Manamorphose is the question. Song of Freyalise. Let me read this one again. So it makes all your creatures mana dorks for 2 turns in a row, and then it puts +1/+1 counter on all your creatures because in Vigilance Champ you get 1 free swing and they all get bigger. The +1/+1 counters are a big value here. I do have a lot of creatures. I'm a creature deck. We don't have the option of taking removal, which is something I would prioritize more highly. And I don't actually think our fixing for white is as good as I thought. I'm still going to play this Temple Garden for the Territorial Kavu and the Wild Nacatl, but we're not actually doing as well there as I thought we were. Okay, a Ponder is fantastic. We all love a Ponder. Ooh, wait, Mother of Runes. Ooh. Mother of Runes seems really good. I mean, obviously, Fabled Passage... Actually, I lied. I don't like Fabled Passage here. Allosaurus Shepherd, I don't think I really like either. How many other elves do I even have? I know the Hierarchs aren't elves. My mouse is kind of messed up. I can't read things right now. We have one other elf. So we're just on Mother of Runes, I think. This draft could have gone differently, and I'd be prioritizing these spells like Ponder more highly. But as it is... Ooh, my goodness, we got our Abrade back. I'm very happy with that. Yeah, if I had like a different kind of deck, Balmor or Third Pass Iconoclast would be great. Theo did not draft this deck, and I'm sure right now he's kicking himself, or he will be as soon as I pass him this pack. But we're taking the Abrade. We need removal. We don't have as many spells as we otherwise would want to trigger that. Yeah, this is a bad pack for us. I think we're just taking Impulse. Giga Drowse is cute, but we're not doing it. Impulse, I'm also not really wanting to main deck. We'll see where we end up. Spell Pierce is an okay sideboard card. I don't think I want another tapped land. How many blue sources do I have right now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 blue sources before basics with 13 lands. And red sources, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 red sources before basics. Yeah, I don't think I want to play another tapped land. Basking Root Wallet or Unsummon. Unsummon, I think, is actually decent here. I don't think I'm going to main deck it, but it's really good against the level up creatures and other things like that have... You've seen a lot of creatures that can get bigger throughout the game, even though they're cheap. So even though everything is cheap, you'd think it'd be bad. I think it's actually okay because of how many of those things there are floating around. I have no way to discard cards at all, right? Yeah, and I'm not trying to hardcast. Basking Root Wallets, we got Rip Apart back. I don't think we can play it, actually, ironically, after everything I talked about, but we're going to take it. We're going to take a Mana Leak we're not going to play, and we're going to take a Pongify we're not going to play. Pongify, I think, is actually best here at destroying your own creatures and making an ape. like in response to removal or something. I don't think you're ever Pongifying your opponent's creature, or very, very, very rarely. It's kind of cute to do it your own thing, but I'm not high on it. Put this Remand, put this Mana Leak in the sideboard. We're getting one more card? No, we took our last card. We're just waiting for the rest of the draft to finish. Okay. How do we end up here? How does aggro work in this cube? I don't know that it does, to be perfectly honest. I think maybe like aggro is a little bit of a trap because people are playing Territorial Kavus and Wild Nakaddles and stuff. So I would call myself a mid-range deck in this cube because I have big, beefy creatures. I'm playing stuff like Song of Freyalise. I've got this free Mental Misstep. That's good. Where do we want to put our free spells? Let's make one more column here. Can I drag this column over here? How does this work? How do I make it just a new arbitrary column? Is that something I can do? Maybe I can't. I was going to make a 0 mana value column. I'll just maybe drag them all over myself manually. Here we go. Just do this. Do this. And then keep the Mental Misstep there. Realistically, we're going to decide which of these like filler level cards we're going to end up main decking in a second. We do have some filler over there that I'm not like thrilled about. Okay, Once Upon a Time is also a free spell. Patrick says he's excited about his deck, so not good for us. Okay, let's see here. Put the non-fetchables at the bottom. So, right now we have 12 lands. And how many white sources do we have with those 12 lands? Can we actually play a Mother of Runes and be excited about it? We have just the 1, 2, 3. Once Upon a Time will kind of help. Call it half a source. 4. How good is a late game Mother of Runes? Is a like turn 3 or 4 Mother of Runes better than just a main decked Impulse or Sprite Dragon with... I mean, I guess we did end up with what? This is, 2, 4, 6... We did end up with 11 non-creature spells. So maybe Sprite Dragon is good enough. I think Flying is really good here. That's 17 lands right now if we run it like this. The question is Mother of Runes good enough given our very not good white fixing? If I had taken that Hallowed Fountain, maybe I should have thought harder about that, because that Hallowed Fountain would have turned on our other fetches. What did I take over that Hallowed Fountain? Was it something good? Am I going to regret that when I watch the video back? Hard to say. So what are we looking at here? This is fine, I think. I think my deck last night was better. Earthshaker Kenra, I think, is really good because of the Eternalize mode. I think on the front end, it's fine. But like the aggro cards, I think, are not great here. Like a 2-mana 2/1 is not great. But a 2-mana 2/1 that they can't afford to block because you can bring it back as a 4/4, that's pretty good. And I will have mana, I think, with a combination of the 2 Hierarchs, Incubation Druid, and whatnot. Do I want to play 17 lands here is the question. I'm going to actually count out our mana sources. Is that something this website just tells me? Creatures in deck, a lands in deck. It should just tell me these things. I guess it doesn't know what mana sources we have. So let me actually pull up. I guess you won't be able to see it. Pull up a scratch pad. Can I just pull up a Google Doc here? Hey, you know what? Let's go. Okay. Let's see. So we said, again, 1. Sorry to count this out again. This is probably frustrating to all of you. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to call it 4 white sources with the Ignoble Hierarch. Let's do this real quick. Boop. Boop. And then blue sources. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to call it 9 with the Ignoble Hierarch. We're not going to count Once Upon a Time towards any of them, but Once Upon a Time will just make everything a little better. I think my other keyboard actually. It'd be way easier. This is why I have the streaming keyboard. This is exactly why I have the streaming keyboard, so I can do stuff like this. Okay. We're not playing any black. Red sources. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8 with the Noble Hierarch. I'm sorry, the Ignoble Hierarch. I'm going to call it 8 red sources. Green, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm not going to count the hierarchs here because obviously you need green to cast them, so 9 without either of the hierarchs, but our second green would be pretty easy to come by once we get our first, I think, pretty often. So this is our base sources. A little insight into how I do my mana bases normally. Usually I do this all in my head. Given that this is kind of a complicated mana base, I'm going to do this. And also because I'm on stream and YouTube, I'm going to do it like this so everyone can see what's going on here. All right, now I'm going to count the mana pips we have. So in white, we have 1, 2, 2. Boop. Pipa. Call it pips. Make smaller. Great. In blue, we have 1, 2, 3. So our blue splash is like easy peasy. Well, I'm going to count Otawara and Colonnade. Actually, I'm going to count Colonnade as a white pip as well. So that puts us at 3 white and 5 blue pips. Just so I have a better sense of... I want to be using those things as spells if I can. Red, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pips. I'm going to count the Raging Ravine here too, so 11 pips of red. And then green. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, counting both the creature lands. So we're definitely a mainly green deck, which is fine. So how many basics are we going to run of each of these types? We're definitely running 0 planes. If we don't get our Temple Garden or our Windswept Heath or one of our Mana Dorks, we're just not going to get there, and that's fine. We're not going to run any islands either, because we already have 9 sources without any islands. We only have 5 pips, so we're not running any islands. So we're just pure mountains and forests. And how many slots do we have for lands? We have 5 slots for lands. This is on 17 lands, but 17 lands including Otawara and 3 creature lands, I think is fine. Everyone else is playing really low land counts here, and I don't think there's actually a good reason to do that. I mean, I think you want to draw your mana so you can, dump it into your mana sinks like Incubation Druid, be able to eternalize your Earthshaker Kenra. I have ways to spend my mana. I have ways to draw cards. I have flashback on Firebolt. I have my creature lands. So I'm going to play 17 lands, I think. Which means I'm going to play what? 3 forests and 2 mountains. That puts me on a 10-12 mana base. I could be on an 11-11 mana base, but I really want to draw my green on turn 1 for one of these 1-drops. Well, Ragavan on turn 1 is also pretty darn good. But all these other red 1-drops are things I'll play later because they're removal. Do I want to be a 11-11 mana base or a 12-10 mana base? Chat. Total sources. So that would be just... I could do this with a formula, but I'm not going to because it doesn't matter because I'm just doing this really quick for myself here. So I'm a 12-10-9 mana base with this like kind of greedy white thing, which might come up sometimes. I still think the white is worth it. Mother of Runes is the most suspect card in this list. Now, sometimes I'm just going to have Windswept Heath in my opening hand, and I'm just going to play a turn 1 Mother of Runes, and I'm going to feel great. Should that instead be an Unsummon, an Impulse, a Spell Pierce, a Dragon Master Outcast, a Standstill? Maybe. I don't know. It's really hard to say. Okay, let's think about, so... Assuming I can cast Mother of Runes mid-game. Having a creature mid-game is okay. It's beneficial for things like Quirion Beastcaller. It's beneficial for things like Song of Freyalise. Otherwise, not a lot of synergy. But a live Mother of Runes, I think, is really good here. Conversely, an Unsummon, Impulse, Standstill would all be good for Sprite Dragon. They'd be good for Dragon's Guard Elite. Standstill is another source of like substantial card advantage, I think, if played correctly. And I think I do have a good Standstill deck. If I play Ragavan on turn 1, and they happen to play nothing on their turn, which would be awful. But, I mean, actually, more than I expected, players last night were not having turn 1 plays, which you'd think with more than half of the cube costing 1 mana, you would pretty reliably have a turn 1 play. But, I mean, I guess my deck only has, what? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things I'm actually going to be excited to play on turn 1. 7 if you count Abundant Harvest. But most of my actual, gas is at 2 mana. It's a hard build, chat. Okay, let's just get rid of the Impulse. I'm not going to play the Impulse if I have the opportunity to play Standstill. Standstill was cool, it's fun, and it has a much higher power level ceiling. It's worse if you're behind, but I don't want to be behind. So I'm not going to plan for that. That's a good strategy, right? That's how Magic works. Unsummon is a sideboard card. I'll bring this in some matchups for sure, but it's a sideboard card. I think the same is true for Spell Pierced. So the question is Standstill or Dragon Master Outcast better than Mother of Runes? Dragon Master Outcast is just not. 1 mana 1/1 is so bad here. And yes, if you have 6 more lands, you get a dragon, but that's not happening reliably enough. So we're down to, is Standstill better than Mother of Runes in this deck? That's not an easy question for me to answer. Okay, so if I do have a Standstill in play, how can I spend my mana? And the answer is Hex Drinker, great. Creature lands, Raging Ravine, Lair of the Hydra, Celestial Colonnade, great. Channeling Otawara, also great. Nothing over here I can do with Standstill in play. I could activate Quirion Beastcaller, 6 mana activation. I'm sorry, Dragon's Guard Elite. I get those two confused sometimes. I can activate Dragon's Guard Elite, 6 mana to double the number of +1/+1 counters on it, assuming it has at least 1. I can do that without having to break the Standstill. Eternalize is not casting, is it? Or is it casting? Eternalize. Exile is card. No, it's an activated ability. So I can also Eternalize Earthshaker Kenra under a Standstill, and that will be fine. I also think I'm reasonably likely to be head on board early. You know what? For the chat, I'm going to do it. Playing Mother of Runes is not interesting to people. Let me go update this spreadsheet real quick. So we cut a white pip. So really, we're basically not casting white spells. We have Rip Apart, and we have Celestial Colonnade. I think Rip Apart is still worth it on 4 sources. I think it's better than like an Unsummon. But the Mother of Runes I don't think is. We're going to add 1 more blue pip, which is fine. Much easier to cast here. True Medium, you have me cutting Standstill. I think it's way better on our mana base to have Standstill. I think, honestly, there's an argument to be made that I should be playing a Remand or an Unsummon over the Rip Apart too. I really want to have some main deck Artifact or Enchantment hate, because there is stuff like Isochron Scepter and Umezawa's Jite running around. And even if you have to destroy them a little bit later, I think it's worth it to have some main deck Artifact and Enchantment. You think it's the right move to cut Standstill, but it's fun to keep it in? I think I might be right to play it, actually. I don't know. I mean, drawing 3 cards is hard to come by in a 2 mana value or less cube. I've got the Expressive Iteration for card advantage. I love that. I also have Ragavan for card advantage. I also love that. Other than that, I don't really have card advantage strictly in this deck. It's kind of more of a beefy mid-range deck. All right, I'm going to call it there. I'm going to lock it in. No, your mana base is wrong. You did it wrong, you stupid machine. I don't want that. I don't want that. That's what I want. 2, 3. Yeah. All right, I'm going to call it there. I did my best. I don't think Remand is any good here, to be honest. It's so easy to just cast the thing again that I don't think it's worth it. The reason stuff like Unsummon is good is because you can like bounce their creature lands and stuff. So Unsummon's going to come in a decent bit out of the sideboard, I think. I think we'll be sideboarding Rip Apart out for Unsummon maybe a lot. But having not looked at Anthony or Patrick's decks, I'm going to lock in this main deck for the stream right now. 2 tapped lands in Colonnade and Raging Ravine. I think that's fine. Yeah, I think it's fine. All right, now let's take a little peeky poo. Little peeky poo at whatever they're doing. Let me get a screenshot of this first before I leave, just in case something weird happens. Get it all. Get that negate in there too. Boom. All right. Now let's take a little peek at what Anthony's done. How do I do that again? I go to game logs, and I click on review, and then I click on Anthony. What is Anthony doing? All right, we have a blue-white deck. So Anthony got the Denick, pretty good card. What we got here? So like these one drops, I'm not worried about. It's fine, whatever. Esper Sentinel might be a little bit annoying, but I'm not worried about any of that stuff. Luminarch Aspirant is really good. Reality Chip is really good. Fairy Vandal has a very high ceiling, as does Pack Rat. But that's why I really wanted that removal that I got. That's why I took like a Galvanic Blast over a fetch land at some point, because I need to be able to Galvanic Blast, a Luminarch Aspirant, a Fairy Vandal, a thing the Reality Chip is trying to reconfigure onto, because those are going to be really good. I'm not going to enjoy playing against Denick. 2/3 lifelink for 2 that draws more cards when it dies is pretty good. Ooh, Skull Clamp. At least Anthony does not have the Stoneforge Mystic. That would be bad. But Skull Clamp, Prismatic Ending, really good. Like Repeal, for example, that's a card that is really, really good here. I would play Repeal over a Rip Apart any day. That'd be way better than Unsummon in this environment. And then we have Baffling End, Seal Away, Ominous Seas. What kind of creature lands? Cave of the Frost Dragon, Hall of Storm Giants, Shambling Vent. What are you splashing black for? Just Pack Rat? I don't know about that one, Anthony. Don't know about that one. Okay, I'm gonna say it. So every time I say anything, I just end up jinxing it. I think this matchup is okay for me. I'm not terribly worried about this deck. Skull Clamp's gonna be a problem. Denick's gonna be a problem. Reality Chip's gonna be a problem. And if I can't answer Aspirant or Fairy Vandal at the right moment, that will also be a challenge. Other than that, I think my deck is bigger, and I actually have better card advantage in the form of Standstill and Expressive Iteration, and better creature lands. So his removal's a little better, though. A bit better. But I think I like that matchup okay. Let's see what Old Dirt is on. Okay, a little Jund action here. So, has the Wrenn and 6, has a Wasteland. Don't like that. If that happens on the stream, I will make Patrick feel bad about it. Okay. Concealing Curtains was actually kind of impressive to me in the draft we played. I don't know why my screen gets all messed up when I'm looking at this website and streaming it. Evolved Sleeper, so Night of the Ebon Legion is really good here. We talked about how good Warden of the First Tree is. I'm worried about those one drops. I'm worried about Knight, and I'm worried about Warden. I'm sure you're not playing Time Stream Navigator. You do have Dark Depths and Vampire Hexmage, so that's a good reason to bring in a Unsummon. We'll see if that can happen reliably. No way to tutor those lands, right? Yeah, you don't have the Elvish Reclaimer. I don't see it here. You do have a way to go get your creature, though, with Fauna Shaman. So if you have the land, you can go fetch up the Vampire Hexmage. I think Rakdos Headliner is really good. I think Wildborn Preserver is pretty good. But none of these are, like, huge power outliers up here. So I'm most worried from the creatures about Warden of the First Tree, Knight of the Ebon Legion. And then down here, Rancor is a problem. Inquisition of Kozilek is very good. Red and 6 is very, very good. And yeah, not enough fetch lands for Life from Alome. I feel like this deck wanted to be a lands deck, but like you have 1 fetch land, 2 fetch lands for Life from Alome, Red and 6. So Red and 6 really just a 2-mana, very slow Arc Lightning here, but that's really good. Less good against me because I specifically prioritized stuff like the Wild Nacatl, the Territorial Kavu, the Quirion Beastcaller, Dragon's Guard Elite, stuff that will hopefully, Hex Drinker, grow outside of the realm what can be removed by spells like that. Ragavan obviously is going to get Red and 6. That's going to be fine. These will be really interesting games. Yeah, so tune in to the stream. If you're watching this on YouTube, the stream is tonight. It'll be Monday the 6th, and then the games will be hitting YouTube the rest of the week. Urza Saga with nothing to fetch with it. Rip. You hate to see it. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Like and subscribe, share with your friends, etc., etc.